This is One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health.
All right, we got Brian Baldinger from NFL Network Analyst. You can follow him on Twitter at Baldy NFL and also see him every Friday, 7 p.m. on NFL Total Access. Thanks for giving us some time, Baldy. Saw the piece that you kind of put together on Terrell Bernard, your AFC Defensive Player of the Week. There were a lot of unknowns coming into this season, as you know, with the departure of Tremaine Edmonds in free agency. But Terrell Bernard has answered the bell in a big way here and may make this Bills defense even better than people anticipated.
I agree. I completely agree with all the points. And it's early, but it certainly looks like it. And part of it is, I think his speed and recognition, I think is faster than what Tremaine had. He doesn't have the size, but him and Matt Milano present a lot of issues because of just their speed and their recognition, how quickly they get to the ball. I think that's one of the reasons why they like to use Bernard in the blitz game, because he can cover a lot of ground in a hurry. And so two kind of undersized guys off the ball inside, like it's been pretty good, especially these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and when the season began, we talked about Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano the same way, both starting linebackers. Perhaps not by current NFL standards, but by historically NFL standards, these guys are both undersized. But that's kind of the way it is in the NFL. I mean, if you can run and cover, and if you can tackle in the open field, you're big enough, no matter what your size is.
Yeah, I mean, they're good tacklers. That helps, Steve. But, yes, I mean, the question is always going to be, and you're going to see it this week, how do they handle it when a team really can run the ball right at you now? They gave a big run to Breece Hall week one, but they've really shut things down since then. But, when a team really wants to run at you, are they going to be able to hold up? That's been an issue for this defense. But other than that, I mean, when you want to defend the pass, play the perimeter game, do all the things that teams like to do in this league, that's a pretty good complement of guys inside right now playing good for Sean.
We heard Coach McDermott last week talk about how the rush and the coverage on defense has to work hand in hand. That might never be more true than this week against this offense. I almost kind of feel like the coverage has to be the catalyst here just to get Tua to even pat the ball once, because it's out so dang fast with him. The rush really doesn't ever have a chance to get to him. He's been sacked once in 3 games. I think he's been hit a total of 5 times in 3 games, which is a, anemic number. Does the coverage have to take away the first read? And how difficult is that, knowing if you take away that first read and guess wrong, it's like a double move and that guy's behind you for 6?
It's true. The Patriots did a good job 2 weeks ago, real good job. They got one deep ball the whole day to Jalen Waddle, one-on-one coverage against their third corner. But, they could not get the ball down the field there. They tried 6 times. They got 1. Now they gave up, a 43-yard touchdown run, because what happens in Mike McDaniel's offense is you're going to get a shift in motion every play. And your defense is going to have to adjust. And all he wants you to do is hesitate. All he wants you to do is just freeze and not play fast. And that's what caught Denver, is just how much they froze. And by the time they recognized it, the speed of these 2 backs, Mostert and a chain, like they're by you, and they ran for 350 yards. So they didn't have they played without Jalen Waddle. They didn't really need the deep ball, although they got one to Tyreek on the 3rd play to Kane. I think you got to start with not giving them the deep looks and give them the deep shots, because they'll take them off play action all day. Usually it's first down, it's play action. They'll take their shots. I think it's got to start with just defending the deep end of the field and putting a border around it, not letting that ball go over your head.
Yeah, and when it comes to that, there's no question the Bills with Poyer and Hyde, although they're not the athletes they once were, they do give you something with their savvy and their understanding of what the defense is supposed to be. The defensive line, when you talk about the Bills and what they're going to try and do against Tua, what are the ideas the teams have come up with to try and get him to not be able to release the ball, to pat the ball Obviously, knock it down at the line of scrimmage. What's the best strategy for making a quarterback not have that first option?
Well, he's very mechanically sound, Steve. Like his footwork is, it reminds you of Drew Brees, way he goes through progressions, how quickly he goes through them, and he always gets his feet in good position and good set. But he's 5'11", hands in his face. Throwing over the trees sometimes can be a challenge. That's why his footwork is important to throw through the trees, not try to throw over it. But guys like Rousseau, guys that are tall and lank, like you got to get your hands up and just make it, just give him as many obstacles as possible to try and see and throw over.
Flipping it over to the other side, Steve and I were surprised to see that Miami's ranked 24th against the run, because most of these teams are trying to play catch up and throwing the football, and they're still 24th against the run. It was kind of a peculiar number to see there. Is there anything that they're still trying to get acclimated to, do you think, in Vic Fangio's defense that may not be quite up to speed yet, that could be a perceived deficiency this early on in the season for their defense?
Well, most of those yards came week 1 against the Chargers. Austin Eckler had a great game, and the Chargers found the run game against them. So that was the big part. But they, really Denver, they ran the ball a little bit, but they didn't run it great. But teams have popped runs on them right now. They got new linebackers in there right now. Atlanta Roberts is gone. So there's something there. And then they seem like they're pretty pass rush happy, like a lot of teams. And so you can kind of sucker punch them and trap them inside. And the safeties, you look at their stats. Javon Holland is going to lead this team in tackles. Their safeties make a lot of tackles. Deshaun Elliott, Javon Holland, they make a lot of tackles, those two guys, which means they're getting to their safeties. And so, obviously the Bills have made a real commitment to the run. James Cook looks really good thus far. I would think that that's something that has got to be a big part of this game plan, is to run at him, try and keep Tua off the field for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we've talked about. Anytime we've ever seen an offense that's kind of above and beyond the normal offense, the idea has always been to beat them with your offense, not let them have those possessions. Mm-hmm. Hang on to the football, 12-play drive, 15. It all sounds great on paper, but you still got to go out and execute a 12-play drive and hold on to the ball and keep them on the – that's a 60-minute endeavor that's not that easy to do.
It isn't, Steve, and so if you just look at the last two games, like Denver last week and then the Patriots the week before, the Patriots played the game the way they want to play it. They slowed it down. They really bled the clock. They didn't give up any deep shots. And then they opened the game up at the very end with a 43-yard run by Mostert, which, gave them a 24-10 lead. But last week, this thing was a track meet from the very beginning, Steve. And Denver said, okay, that's how we got to play. And they did play it, Steve, like that. I know you probably studied it, but it was 14-10, 21-10, and they were keeping up and they were driving, and then they lost the ball in a fumble, and the Dolphins scored quickly, and then they had a touchdown call back because of an offensive penalty, and and they kicked a field goal, and so they tried to keep up. They made a bunch of big plays in the first 20, 25 minutes of the game, and then they lost the track meet. So it'll be interesting to see how, because you can't script these things, Steve. Like sometimes you go, okay, we'll play this and grind it out, and it will be happy if it's 10-6 at halftime, and then it just you just don't know how it's going to go. It might be a track meet from the very beginning, and Josh Allen and Diggs, like last week, saying we're just going to attack. If they don't want to spy Josh Allen, I'll go run with it. If they don't want to cover Stephon Diggs, we'll get it to him down the field. And that's what they did to Washington, and they ran him right out of their own gym. So it'll be interesting to see how this game flows and how it takes off. Because honestly, the Dolphins have won these last two in totally different styles.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're right. Everybody has a plan. It's like Mike Tyson used to say, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And in the NFL, everybody's got a plan until you give up 2 consecutive scores. Yeah. Then you got to do something else. And that's what this Miami Dolphin this team kind of banks on. Well,
they were up 14-0. They took the opening drive, Broncos go 3 and out, score the next drive. It's 14-0. And then, they started airing it out. They kind of, like I said, they kind of probably changed their game plan of running Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine and some of the things they wanted to do. And they're like, well, we can't play this style. We've got to take shots. And they did, and they hit a couple of them, and they got back in the game and 14-7, and got away from them, but, really quickly. But, yes, if you're down 14-0, it's hard to sit in that game plan, Steve, and be patient.
Last one for me, Baldy. The Bills have turned to 12 personnel. It's worked well for them, not only in terms of, utilizing the middle of the field a little bit more effectively than they did second half of the season last year, but also with that downhill run game. What do you think the fruits can be to bear there going forward with that personnel grouping for Buffalo?
Well, Dalton Kincaid looks like a great fit. Him and Dawson, at tight ends. There are a lot of things you can do with YY personnel in the run game, in the pass game, just matchups. Like he presents a very good chess piece for this offense. And I really don't think, despite whatever happened this offseason, I really don't think Josh Allen cares who catches his passes. If Diggs catches them, he's at the end. That's great. But honestly, I don't think he cares. He's going to throw it to whoever he feels he can get the ball to, whoever's open. And Kincaid's a great matchup. He's a talented player. He's good after the catch, and he's just getting started. And then the two new guards inside, I think they make a difference. I think they got bigger up front. I think they're better in the run game than what they were a year ago. They had to win the line of scrimmage. Cincinnati, in that playoff loss, that was discouraging. They had to get bigger. They had to win the trench warfare. And I feel like in these first 3 weeks, even the turnovers against the Jets, I felt like for the most part, they really won the trenches. And I think that's where, if this Bill's going to make a run this postseason, it's going to be because they're better in the trenches. They look like that right now. It's early, but Kincaid certainly helps them, and the two new guards help.
Baldy, great talking to you. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Steve. You got it, guys. Good luck. Have fun this weekend. It should be a great game.
Yeah.